Hey guys, welcome back. Last week we went over 3 ways that you must use if you want to create wealth over time. Today in this video, we're going to be talking about 5 reasons why you always feel poor, despite the fact that you're working all the time. Some of you are even working more than one job, and you still cannot make progress financially. There are multiple reasons why that may be happening. And until you can identify these reasons, it's always going to remain like that. And that is no way to live. There is a better way, and that's what we're going to be discussing. The first reason why you constantly feel like you cannot make financial progress, the reason why you may feel poor, is because you are not paying yourself first. Now, I know if you've been watching my videos so far, I probably sound like a broken record. There's a reason why I keep on stressing that. The concept of paying yourself first is so important when it comes to making progress financially that I keep on stressing it, and I keep mentioning that intentionally because I know in my personal life how well this has worked for me. And I want you to be able to experience the same thing. Every month you're paying bills, rent, mortgage, car payment, student loan payments, car insurance, health insurance, gas for your car, daycare, and that's not even including all the miscellaneous subscriptions that you have, such as Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, etc. But let's think about this for a moment. All of these payments that you're making every single month, they all have one thing in common. They are all someone else's passive income. You paying your rent to your landlord. That money is either going to a family, an individual, a company, and that is a form of passive income for them. The car payment that you're paying, the car payment including the interest to the bank, that's passive income to the bank. The daycare that you're paying for your child, that may not be passive income to people working at the daycare center, but it's passive income to someone who owns that center. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, you're paying that to a company, and that's passive income to them. Now, do you begin to see a pattern? All of these payments that you're making, to you, it may feel like, oh, it's too much, it's a burden. Now, to the person, the family, the entity, the bank that you're paying that money to, it's considered passive income, and they're laughing from ear to ear. You are, in a sense, benefiting from that because you're consuming the service, you're renting the house, you're living in it, but you never seem to have any money left over for you. Now, this is the reason why paying yourself is important. And as I've said earlier, I've been doing it for well over a decade, and it's worked fantastically. If I can do it, so can you. Even if you were to do it on a lower scale, it would still be beneficial to you in a few years or at any point of time in the future. Whenever you get paid, if you get paid via direct deposit, and most of us do nowadays, what you have to do is that you have to make sure that a part of your money, a part of your paycheck is staying with you. Now, if you do not have an emergency fund, the first place that you want to send that is to an emergency fund, because that's going to go into an account. It's going to happen automatically if you can get human resources at your job to send part of your paycheck to a particular bank account. If they do not have the capability to do so, you have to make sure that as soon as the money gets deposited, the first person who gets paid is you. I'm just going to use this as an example. If it's going to be $100, you have to take that $100 and send it to an outside savings account that is not with the same bank. And the reason why I say that is because if you have that savings account with the same bank that you have the checking account, that money will get spent. Why? Because every time you log into that account, you will see it as money that's readily available to be used. You will, as a result, overspend what's in the checking account, and you'll just transfer money from the savings account to the checking account so that you can cover any expenses that you want to cover. But if it's at a different financial institution, it is out of sight, out of mind. Now, you know that the account exists, but you do not see it on a daily basis. So decide how much of your paycheck you can direct to that account. Personally, I would recommend that you start with 5% of your paycheck. Initially, it may seem difficult. It may look like you're not going to have enough money to cover your bills. But once you've been separated from that money for a couple paychecks, after about a month, you will forget that this money even exists. You will simply adjust to whatever is left, and you will make sure that everything gets paid with the remainder of the money. And if you haven't watched my video regarding why you should have an emergency fund, after this video, I would strongly recommend that you watch it. But the main reason why you want to pay yourself first and set up an emergency fund, if you ever have any unexpected expenses, you will have some money saved up that you can use to cover that, which would generally have a very high interest rate. Therefore, forcing you to give away part of your money in interest payments to a bank, especially if you carry your balance from month to month. By paying yourself first in that way, once you've gotten to a point where you have an amount that you're comfortable with in that savings account that you're using as an emergency fund, I would say about 3 months worth of monthly expenses that will, one, prevent you from going into debt whenever you have an emergency. Now that you have a fully funded emergency fund, that money can be directed to investing. So far, in other videos, I've talked about different types of investment accounts that you can open. If you need to know what types of accounts are best for you, then I would recommend that you watch those videos. Now, with those funds, let's say it's 5% of your paycheck. Now, that will lead us to the second reason why you constantly feel poor and you constantly feel like you cannot make financial progress. So the number 2 reason why you constantly feel poor is because you are not investing your money. There's no way you can make financial progress if you do not invest your money. Now, have you ever wondered why the rich keep on getting richer as time goes by, but anyone who's struggling financially, anyone who's poor, cannot seem to make any progress? The answer to that is pretty simple. The rich invest their money. They invest their money in the stock market, they invest their money in real estate, and they invest their money in businesses. And what tends to happen with businesses, the stock market or real estate, over time, these tend to appreciate in value and or they generate income for them. You may have a job where all your bills are being paid, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you're in the same situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck and never have any extra cash. Now, a couple reasons why you cannot make financial progress if you do not invest your money is because of this. Now, let's say you manage to pay yourself first, but you put the money in a savings account. Yes, if you have an emergency, you're covered. You're going to have some money that you can use to cover that emergency. And even if you never have any emergencies, which is highly unlikely, whether you're holding the cash in a savings account that's paying you, let's say right now, about 3 to 4%, or even worse, you're keeping the money in cash, say in your house or in your apartment, you will get behind financially because of something that's called inflation. Simply put, inflation is what happens to the price of goods and services that we use. The prices of these goods and services tend to go up over time. So, simple example, if an iPhone costs me $1,100, I have $1,100 in the savings account. I can easily use $1,100 saved to buy that iPhone. Let's say fast forward a year from today, the same iPhone with the same storage that Apple as a company is selling now, according to Apple, doesn't cost $1,100. It costs $1,200. Now, let's say I had $1,100 saved and I didn't buy an iPhone. Now that we're 1 year in the future and the iPhone costs $1,200, the $1,100 that I had at my bank was paying, say, 3% in interest in that savings account. That's about $33. So now a year in the future, Apple says, if you want this phone, I'll sell it to you, but it's going to cost you $1,200. But the $1,100 that you had in the bank only paid you 3% on that money. So these $1,100 became $1,133. But the phone now costs $1,200. Now what has happened is the money that I had, the $1,100, has lost purchasing power. It cannot purchase the same thing that it could have purchased a year prior. So a year prior, I could have bought the same phone for $1,100. But now I put the money in the bank. The bank only paid me 3% of that money, which is about $33. Now my $1,133 cannot pay for the full price of $1,200 for that iPhone now. So basically, if you're not investing, as time progresses, you will continuously lose purchasing power. The only way you can work against that is by doing exactly like the rich do, is by putting your money to work. You work, you make the money, and then you take part of that money and you invest it. Let's say, for example, you invest in the stock market in an index fund. After 1 year of investing, instead of getting 3% from your bank, your investment produced a return of, let's say, 13%. So now my $1,100 is now $1,243. So a year in the future, if I wanted to buy that phone, not only do I have the $1,200 that it costs now, but I have an extra $43. And now with $1,243, I was able to not only keep up with inflation, but to earn a little bit more. So if you keep on investing your money year after year consistently, that's only going to compound over time. Any interest that you earn is going to compound over time. This is the reason why you cannot afford not to invest your money, because that allows you to keep up with inflation or even go higher than the rate of inflation. And I understand that some people actually keep their money in actual cash in their house. That's even worse. Not only are you losing money due to inflation, you also run the risk of it being stolen in your house, of it being burnt in the fire. I would strongly recommend that you open an account and put the cash in an account, because a lot of these accounts nowadays, they don't even charge you any maintenance fees. So once again, the second reason why you feel poor is because you are not investing your money. Once you've gotten enough money in that emergency fund, anything above that should be invested. Now, the third reason why you feel poor is because you are trying to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses are broke. Stop buying, consuming, or do anything with your money that you cannot afford simply because someone else is doing it. That's actually one of the worst reasons to spend your money. Do not try to copy others by buying what they buy. If they bought a new house, you feel like you have to buy a new house. And I'd say one of the main reasons why you do not want to do that is because whoever you're copying, they may be buying what they're buying or consuming what they're consuming, but they're doing it with a credit card. They're going into debt for it. And if you're copying them and you cannot afford to do it, what's going to happen? You're going to go into debt as well, and you're going to be paying interest, money that could be used to be invested to create passive income for you in the future, simply because you're trying to keep up with your neighbors, trying to keep up with your friends, you're trying to keep up with your coworkers. You end up buying stuff that you cannot afford to impress people, and some of those you don't even like. If you are truly serious about improving your finances and you want to be in a much better financial situation in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, keep driving that car for an extra 3-4 years before you get a new one. Stay in the house that you currently have. Don't go out buying another one just because someone else is doing so. And stop buying luxury items and making billionaires even richer by purchasing these expensive items so that you can look good. And let me ask you this. Now, have you ever seen pictures of billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and many others? Do you ever see the kind of clothing that they're wearing? Typically, it's jeans and a t-shirt. Do you ever see them with these luxury items on? No, it's because they're not buying them. They may own shares of that company. They're counting on people like you and me to spend the money. So once again, if you're serious about making financial progress, do not do it. Just because your neighbors just got a brand new truck doesn't mean you have to get a brand new truck. Your neighbor may be in debt up to their eyeballs. And that leads me to the fourth reason why you feel poor and you cannot seem to make financial progress. Lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep. And it's a simple concept to understand. We've just talked about inflation, how the prices of goods and services tend to go up over time. This usually occurs because of the last reason that we've just talked about, because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. If you're making $50,000 a year and you end up getting a new job, or at your current employer, you end up getting a raise to $60,000, it doesn't mean that you can get a better apartment. It doesn't mean that you have to buy a new car. It doesn't mean that you have to get a new wardrobe. Just because you now make more money doesn't automatically mean that you have to increase your expenses. Of course, you want to make sure that you're living comfortably. You're not depriving yourself of anything that you need. You're not depriving your kids of anything that they need. But at the same time, you have to exercise some kind of control, some kind of discipline to prevent you from spending more money just because you now have more money coming in. Because you hear it all the time. There's an article that recently came out saying that 30-something% of people making six figures, that's $100,000 or more, are living paycheck to paycheck. This is not something that occurred overnight. It's something that's been in the works. That same person, when they first started working, was probably making $40,000 a year. They were most likely living paycheck to paycheck, but now they started making $60,000 a year. Instead of keeping their standards of living exactly as it is, for whatever reason, they incur new expenses. And these generally occur on a monthly basis. Your car is more expensive. They used to have a perfectly working car. Now they got a luxury car. They used to have a perfectly sized house. But now they need to get a new house with a couple additional bedrooms. Now they went from $40,000 a year to $60,000 a year, yet they're still living paycheck to paycheck. Because now all the extra money, $20,000 that could have been used to partially go on a vacation and partially invested for the future, now it's being spent on something else. Now the extra money, instead of benefiting them, they've just increased someone else's passive income. And then a couple of years, they start making $80,000 a year. They do the same thing. They start making $90,000. They do the same thing. Their expenses keep on increasing in unison with their salaries. And that is definitely not something you want to do if you want to make financial progress. Those of us that are able to make financial progress, whenever we get a raise, whenever I get a raise, part of that money gets invested while the remainder goes to a vacation fund. This is how it's supposed to work. Every time you get a pay raise, your standards of living increase, and you're always going to be in a situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck and you can never have enough money. 5 years go by, same situation. 10 years, same situation. That's no way to live. And I'm definitely not saying that you shouldn't enjoy the fruits of your labor whenever you get a pay increase. However, everything has to be done in moderation. And as adults, we have responsibilities now and in the future. And the fifth reason why you always feel poor is because you do not track your expenses. If you get paid and you don't even know what your yearly salary is, something's not right. If you get paid, you don't know what your net income is, something's not right. If you get paid, you don't know how much money you spend every month and how much money you save, something's not right. Especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it is vital that you track every single dollar. Later on, you may not have to do that when your finances are in a much better place. But at the very beginning, you've got to track every single dollar that's going out and every single dollar that's coming in. And that's how you figure out your resources. And that's how you determine how much money is being wasted on miscellaneous stuff, on useless subscription, or on anything else that does not serve the purpose of making your finances a little bit better every single month. Therefore, putting you in a significantly better financial situation 5 years or 10 years from now. The out of sight, out of mind mentality is wrecking so many people's finances. A lot of people see it that way. If they don't see how much money is coming in and how much money is going out, then it's not a problem. It's not gonna make me feel bad. If you look at things that way and you are having financial issues, you are living paycheck to paycheck, very likely it will continue to remain like that. You have to be able to track your expenses, do a budget that is not too restrictive so that you can continue doing it consistently, therefore improving your finances. Personally, for as long as I've been working as an adult, every 2 weeks that I get paid, I've gone over that pay stub, even though I receive my check via direct deposit. Especially if you're in a situation where your salary or your paycheck varies, then I definitely recommend that you start making that a habit. Many people are actually poor and they're in a bad financial situation which may not improve over time, but that's because of certain extraordinary life circumstances. Let's say there was a catastrophic health event. Someone got sick, someone got ill, and for an extended period of time. That's something that can definitely wreck your finances. If you haven't had any catastrophic life events, you have a job, you have an income, you're healthy, everything that I've just gone over can be done, and you should do it if you are serious about improving your finances. Now let's make sure you pay yourself first, you start investing, you stop keeping up with the Joneses, you stop increasing your expenses as your income rises, and you start tracking your finances so that you know every dollar that's coming in and every dollar that's going out so that you can divert those dollars where they would be working more optimally. And remember, to improve your finances over time, you must make sure that you have excess income. And what you do with that excess income is going to make all the difference. If you invest it, everything's going to get better as time progresses. If you spend it all, everything will remain the same. So that's it. If this video was informative to you, please comment, like, share, and subscribe so that I can continue to grow the channel, therefore continue to spread good financial information and getting you more financially literate. And also, don't forget to hit the bell button so that you can be notified every time I release a new video. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.